Good evening. I want to say it's Thursday. What I really want to say is I love technology, except when it doesn't work. So at this point in time, what I will do is what they used to do on live television when something didn't go the way it was supposed to go, and you just talk. Obviously, tonight we're talking about business succession planning. And this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart and to a lot of people who are baby boomers. A lot of entrepreneurs who own small and medium-sized businesses have invested a lot of time and energy into their businesses. A lot of them have been very successful. And the result of that is that we can end up having a substantial amount of our net worth tied up in our businesses. And quite often what I find is that entrepreneurs spend so much time, now maybe I don't want to leave myself out of the circumstance because I'm emotionally involved as well, but entrepreneurs spend a lot of their time focusing on how to grow their businesses. And that's good, because ultimately, at the end of the day, that's how you receive value, assuming that you can sell it to somebody else. So the whole issue of getting tied up in the long-term successful growth of the business is that often we don't spend a lot of time looking in the mirror, and where you don't see that, oh my goodness, I have some wrinkles, I don't have brown hair anymore, or I don't have any hair anymore. We go through this transition in life where we don't realize often that we need to work on a plan of how to exit and successfully exit the business. So in this process, what can end up happening is that we pay little to no attention on what we're actually going to do with the business, and it can end up shrinking. It can end up failing for a variety of different reasons. It could end up where something drastic happens to our health or change of circumstances, and all of a sudden we're not able to adequately take care of this business anymore. So one, at some point in time, we don't want the business to be dependent on us. And two, we need to plan ahead towards a successful transition of that business. So this can be very challenging. And as we look around Canada, if I actually ever get my video up and running, as we look around Canada, what we have observed is that a lot of small business owners actually aren't paying enough attention or any attention to this. They haven't thought about a succession plan. They haven't planned out a succession plan. They're not talking to their families about it. They're not consulting with anyone else. They haven't. They may not even have considered what other professionals they need to involve in this, so that they're able to successfully extract the value, hopefully the maximum value, out of their businesses, and obviously create this legacy that may go on with a family member. It might be sold to someone that they previously hadn't known. There's a whole variety of options. It might even be to successfully wind up a business. I've encountered a couple of those lately where they were in a business that was highly successful for a prolonged period of time, and the times have changed and the needs have changed, and the business is no longer relevant, or the equipment's too old, the amount of investment that they would have to make in it to change it going forward from here would be massive. There's a whole variety of reasons why they might decide to wind the business down. So in this process, what I was hoping to accomplish tonight, I'm not sure whether I'm going to be able to or not, was to be able to translate that in practical ways to people so that they could look at the length of time that they should be spending preparing their transition plan, who they will transition to, what professionals they would have to have involved in that process, and then ultimately thinking about, when do I actually want to exit the business? Because there's a lot of entrepreneurs that enjoy what they do. They get a lot of self-satisfaction. They get a lot of challenge. It's stimulating to them to be able to be part of a process of growing a successful business on an ongoing basis. So maybe they don't want the responsibility of a lot of the day-to-day, but they still want to be involved in the business. So it's really just wrapping our heads around, what do we want to do and how do we want to do that? And what does that look like? And then beginning to put, I used to say pen to paper. Now it's fingers to keyboards. But putting pen to paper to start to quantify what it is that looks like. And if we can get to that point, then we can begin to wrap our heads around, what should the exit strategy look like? What is the timing for that strategy? And ultimately, where are we going after that? Because I spend a lot of my time talking to our clients about what comes after work. And a lot of the times I get answers like, I like golf. And I'm like, good, you're going to golf 5 days a week? What else are you going to do? I don't know. I hadn't really thought of it much. So a lot of times the day-to-day work may have lost its shine. They may enjoy the entrepreneurial part of the leadership or the salesmanship or the creativity of the business, whatever that happens to be. And they can get rid of some of the other processes, but they hadn't really thought about what they're moving on to. And I often tell people that you must know something about what you want to move on to, and that your moving to becomes more important than the leaving. So in trying to figure out what it is that we want to do after we're doing what we're doing, we need to formulate what that looks like. We need to quantify it, and it needs to become so desirable that what we're doing now is actually getting in the way of what we want to do. And when we get to that point, I think that's when we have a great idea of it's time. And up until that point in time, you know what? It might still be pretty fuzzy. That doesn't mean that you can't start on a succession plan. That doesn't mean that you can't begin to create this legacy. It just means that you're not clear yet, but that doesn't mean you can't start. And I'm going to see if we can get this video up, and I'll be right back. Well, unbelievably, this might work. But if nothing else, I have so much fun doing this, because I can't imagine every week that something else could glitch on this thing. And somehow it manages to do that. So anyway, let's give this a shot and see what happens. Today's session is called Business Succession Planning, Preparing Your Legacy. and this is the pre-recorded portion of our webcast today. But we also are live at the same time, so we are available for comments or Q&A as we go along. So I just wanted to make sure that you're aware of that, so that there's the ability to participate along the way. And if I've already said this live, I apologize. Anyway, it is Thursday, and we're back with another session, and we wanted to cover this because it's an area that is of keen interest to a lot of small and medium business owners. And one of the reasons for that has to do with sort of the age of the population of small and medium-sized business owners. I know inside of our industry, the average age is just below my age. So it's creeping up to about 60. And we've also experienced some of the same things with some of our family members in the industries that they work in. So this is pertinent to a lot of people around this time. And so we wanted to make sure that this was a topic that got covered. One of the reasons why this is important to us is because we have been telling our clients for some period of time that if we happen to be the same age, the likelihood that I will be sitting in the financial planning chair, so to speak, wherever that chair happens to be. Currently, it's in my home office. When our clients are 80 years old is probably less likely. So we started working on a succession plan 10 years ago when Michael, our oldest son, came into the business to work with us. He has a certified financial planner designation, the sort of gold standard of the industry. And he has gained just an enormous amount of experience along the way, such that though he may not have exactly the same level of knowledge in some areas, he probably has more knowledge than I in some areas. So I think at this point in time, we make a great complement to each other, but we certainly have some experience in this area where we realize the importance of particular items that people should focus on as they're considering how they might divest themselves of an asset that may be their largest holding. So we're spending some of our time on specifics about why entrepreneurs of all ages need a succession plan and how to start thinking about it. I want to start with some interesting facts that IPC discovered in a recent poll, and then we'll walk through 6 steps for putting together a solid succession plan and how advisors like ourselves can help you and your family in this. Along the way, we'll discuss some of the dangerous assumptions and barriers that get in the way of succession planning. And obviously, we'll have some time along the way, hopefully, to deal with some Q&A. Let's talk a little bit about the state of business succession planning in Canada. Most business owners take a fair bit of time and effort and pride in anticipating opportunities and putting plans in place to manage and grow their businesses. Yet, not all of them apply the same discipline when it comes to figuring out who will run things when they decide or, God forbid, need to stay a step away from that role. So a poll was conducted with small business owners in Canada and found a few surprising things. First, many Canadian entrepreneurs just aren't ready to tackle the question of their succession. Now, it's one thing if you decide that you're going to work for the rest of your life, and if your health holds up and everything else works out, that's great. But if that doesn't work out, you may have to default to another plan, and best to have thought what those plans are. In fact, 42% are very uncertain about their retirement. Even worse, almost half aren't planning to get professional help from an advisor. A quarter of business owners say they will exit their business when they have enough money to retire. So that suggests that there are a lot of small business owners that don't actually have a comprehensive financial plan and don't have any idea whether they're going to have enough money to be able to retire or not. The good news is that business owners who discuss succession with an advisor feel a lot more confident. And the ones who are waiting until they have enough money to retire before they step away from the business and have discussed their goal with an advisor actually know how much they need to save to meet that goal. Here are a few more pretty startling insights about succession planning. 36% of business owners plan to hang on until they're too sick to run their business. That's over 1/3. Even among small business owners with more than $1 million in assets, almost a quarter of them are going to wait until their health fails to hand over the reins or wind things down. If you wait until you're too ill to be actively involved and there's no succession plan in place, the business you worked so hard to build can end up struggling or even failing. You and your family may end up having to sell or lose everything if the business can't be turned around as you waited too long or they're not ready to run things. In fact, 29% of high net worth small business owners said they wouldn't exit until their successor was ready, which is risky unless you have a clear plan to get them ready well ahead of when something potentially happens, like a sudden illness. As you are here today, let's assume most of you are not interested in waiting until you're too sick to run your businesses. So let's look at how planning can work for you. As we already touched on, waiting until retirement is fast approaching, or when you have health concerns is not a great succession plan. Let's review what is. The goal is to give you and your family more certainty around the future in sickness or in health. This sort of planning will require some thought and input from financial experts and, of course, your family. This will allow you to protect your business, protect your family, create more certainty, allow you to take your time, and get plenty of input. Let's talk family. Our research uncovered another interesting fact. Only 36% of small business owners have talked to their families about their succession plans. Let's let that sink in. 64% of small business owners' families have no idea what is envisioned when it comes to the succession plan for the business. That leaves a lot of responsibility in your family's hands if something happens to you, and is why it's important to share with them how you plan to pass on, sell, or wind down your business, whatever you prefer. Whether you plan to pass the business along to a family member or an employee, or whether your intention is to sell it, you need to have a healthy, growing organization to begin with. Our research uncovered 3 challenges that business owners face in growing their businesses and increasing its value. Changes to federal taxes are the most commonly cited challenge. Who knows what's going to happen in the years to come as the federal and provincial governments in Canada have had to borrow unprecedented amounts of money to keep the country afloat during COVID-19. It is suspected that that will be recouped over time with increased tax rates. We have no idea We're just speculating on what that might look like at this point in time, but somebody has to pay the bill. And at this point in time, we assume that's going to come from increased taxes. This is followed closely by rising labor costs. And of course, creating a business that can still run without them at the helm is another key challenge. Consideration and expertise in the planning process can help address and plan around these and other challenges. So, how do you actually get started? Well, in general, you should start your planning 5 to 10 years before you think you're going to leave your business. That might sound like a long period of time in advance, but when you actually contemplate all the things that need to be put in place to have that successful transition, however that looks to you, it is going to take a fairly significant length of time. If you're leaving it to one of your children, it's best to start the conversation when they're teenagers, though that could be an interesting conversation. But you certainly want to leave the dialogue open and honest. You want to see what their gifts and talents are and find out if they're even motivated to head in this direction, but it's not a bad opportunity to at least present the scenario. Dialogue is the foundation for putting your plan together. So start planning well ahead of time. If your children will succeed you, start the conversation early, keep the dialogue going, and be open and honest. If you're passing the business to a family member or existing employee, you'll need to plan to make sure they're ready well before they're expected to step up. So it's not a mad dash, and then to get them trained, or so that they can step up in a hurry if need be and if circumstances don't follow the plan. Divesting a business, if you have no successor, requires a very specific planning process. And you certainly don't want to end up with a fire sale. When it's a high value business, in other words, worth more than $500,000, it will require careful consideration and adapted planning. In any case, as business owners, you need a trusted advisor, ideally someone with the counseling skills to help navigate emotional and complicated landscapes. You have a lot to do with the success of your business. Now is the time to work on putting the systems and protocols in place to help the business run itself. In other words, share your secret recipe. This makes life a lot easier for whoever takes the reins after you. And it's particularly attractive to potential buyers. Increasing the value of your business is a bit like home staging before selling property. Staging a business requires that you tidy things up, make sure the books are in good order. Ensure processes are defined and documented. Do any repairs needed? Put a fresh coat of paint on the place if required, or so to speak. In addition, you'll want to take a good hard look at what's profitable and what's not in your business. By making sure the business is a well-oiled machine in the day-to-day operation, ensuring the books are up to date and well-maintained, and that the parts that are not doing as well are trimmed away, as well as focusing on the profitable and growing areas of the business, you can increase its value ahead of the succession process, which should clearly be your objective. No two businesses are the same, and it makes sense that no two transitions from founder to successor will be the same. But we can certainly try to learn from others. Reach out to other entrepreneurs who have recently passed a business on or sold one to learn from their experience. These are great questions to ask that will be helpful in you forming your ideas around the sale of your business. When it comes to succession planning, having the big picture in mind is key. With this holistic view, we can make sure everyone benefits over the long term. And as your advisor, we can bring in specialized experts as needed. I can help with both the financial and the legal sides of transferring the business, although we obviously involve other professionals. Plus, we'll be there to ease your transition into retirement, which can be a bit tricky after decades as an entrepreneur. If you have been self-employed for a significant period of time, as I have for the last almost 30 years, the whole concept of transition to the next stage of life at best could be intimidating, at worst could be devastating. We often have a significant amount of our net worth tied up in the businesses that we have grown over decades. And that is not the easiest thing to step away from if we don't know what we're going to. So I often have conversations with our clientele about retirement and what that means and asking them what that means, but leaving the place that you've worked at for so long to go on to do something else, whatever that may be, is best done, in my opinion, when we know clearly what we're going to and what we're coming from is actually getting in the way of achieving that. So being clear about where we're going is going to significantly increase our chances of success. So to recap, whether you are years or months away from leaving your business, you need to have a clear succession strategy. So let's do a quick review. Start as early as you can. 5 to 10 years ahead of time is ideal. Have a clear plan and ongoing dialogue with all of your key players. Work on making your business less dependent on your presence and putting systems and protocols and people in place that will eventually replace you. Look for opportunities along the way to increase the value of the business. Tap into the experiences of other entrepreneurs and advisors you know, and you have a better idea what to expect. And obviously involve your financial advisor in your planning to get a holistic view of your succession strategy. This will significantly increase your chances of success as you begin to contemplate what this is going to look like. This research and my own experience show that when entrepreneurs carefully plan for their business succession, one, they protect their organization, they avoid family and business conflicts, they increase the value of their businesses, and the 6 steps we reviewed today are a simple place to start, and a financial advisor like myself or Michael can help you get all of that going. Most business owners I talk to about succession understand that it is an important task, and it's an inevitable one. As a member of your core team of advisors, I have a deep understanding of your business and your values. I will have a deep understanding of your business and your values. I can kickstart the conversation about your succession plan, whether it's grooming a family member or taking over to find a buyer when the time comes. I'm trained to help you and your family have a frank conversation about how you want your business to be run when you retire. And I can make sure your successor hits the ground running And through my network, I can access Canada's top experts in areas such as wealth management or planning. If you're planning to wind down your business, I can help you do that in a gradual, orderly way that meets your needs. I can also work with you to build the value of your business so your hard work shines through to potential buyers. When the time comes, I will work with you and your family to make the transition into your next step of your retirement as smooth and hopefully worry-free as possible. I hope you enjoyed tonight's session and found it helpful. If you have a succession plan and you'd like me to review it with you, or if you want to get started on a plan, then either Mike or I are pleased to set up a meeting. This is the time for Q&A, and we will go back live to make sure that we are able to deal with any questions that you may have. So, succession planning for businesses. We just scratched the surface of this. There's so much potentially involved in this, and so much to uncover. As I'm listening with you through this, it makes it sound simplistic, and it's not. It's very complex. It's also emotional. There are so many different issues surrounding all of this, but we don't want this to end up in some sort of paralysis that we never actually get to this process at all. So I hope that for whoever is watching this, whether it's live or whether you're watching this on our Facebook page or on YouTube, I realized again in all of this technical stuff at the beginning, I even forgot to introduce myself. So Border City Financial is our business. Steve Fox and Mike Fox in the office, two advisors. And yeah, we're not pretending that this process is simple. We're not saying that in any way, shape, or form. What we are saying is that if you ever intend to create a legacy with your business, if you ever intend to extract value from your business, if you ever intend to sell it to anyone, it does take some planning. So I would highly encourage all entrepreneurs, all small and medium business owners to enter in this process, engage us, engage your advisor, and engage other professionals. Do it well ahead of time. And obviously know where you want to go and be clear about that, or as clear as you possibly can in the middle of that process where you actually have to let go of your baby. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. As usual, I've enjoyed bringing it to you. I always have lots of laughs. I hope people at the other end are having laughs along with me. And thank you for joining us once again. So have a great night, and we will see you next week. Take care.